There was a lot of like unlearning I had to do to kind of work through depression, to work through anxiety, to work through PTSD, trauma. And now I'm in a place, thankfully, where I'm able to talk about this. That's something that has come at a cost. And that cost is feeling detached from my family, feeling detached from my culture in a lot of ways, because it is not the norm to talk about those things. It's not the norm to be so open. And also to just own it and say a big like fuck you to anyone who doesn't understand it or is not willing to understand it.
Besharam, Badtameez, Chi, Gandhi, Jalhata, Toba, Oho, Bad Beti.
I'm Sangeeta Pillai, and this is the Masala Podcast, a Spotify original. This award-winning feminist podcast for and by South Asian women is all about cultural taboos, sex, sexuality, periods, mental health, menopause, nipple hair, shame, and many more taboos. Join me around my virtual kitchen table as I talk with some inspiring women from around the world, exploring what it means to be a South Asian feminist today. Masala Podcast went international. I did a special live podcast in Cologne, Germany, as part of the INDERNET festival. It was incredible hearing the experiences of my three amazing guests, Prasanna Oommen, Laxmi Manuela Anu Ambasna, all doing incredible work in their own spaces and living in Germany, Holland, and the UK respectively. We explored the common struggles that we all shared. We found that we were all fighting similar issues as South Asian feminists. It made me think that it didn't matter where any of us had grown up or where we lived now. We were all fighting similar battles within our culture and outside of it. My German audience was super supportive, cheering us on, laughing and joining in. Before you listen to this episode, however, I must say to you that this was recorded live in a large space that was quite lively. So the sound might be a little bit different from what you're used to. But the energy of my Bad Beti guests and supportive sisters was the same as always, and it blew me away. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello. Willkommen. The first of the three words that I know in German. Dankeschön and Guten Tag. And that's pretty much my German covered. So apologies. I am delighted to host Masala Podcast live in Germany, in Cologne. It's a beautiful city. I've seen a little bit of it this morning, walking along the river. And it's warm and it's got sunshine, which we don't have a lot of in London. So very happy to be here. Thank you all for turning up on this Saturday evening to listen to us. I know some of you listen to Masala Podcast and some of you don't. So for those who don't, it's a podcast about taboos in South Asian culture. So if you are South Asian or know anyone who's South Asian, there's a lot of shit we don't talk about. We don't talk about sex. We don't talk about periods. We don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about the menopause. We don't talk about my favorite, nipple hair. I think we should all be talking about nipple hair. So the serious point behind the podcast is to get us as South Asian women and get us as people from this culture to not feel so alone with all this, because we all suffer from this stuff. You know, we've grown up, we've been taught to hide our bodies, to not talk about our sexuality, to not express issues we might be having with our mental health. And what that does is makes us feel very small, very alone within the culture. And also the other aspect is we're taught that to be South Asian is to be only this. There's only one way to be South Asian. You grow up, you work in a bank, you get married, you have a couple of kids, you look after the house, and that means you're a South Asian woman. And anybody else is not. And that's bullshit. So the point of the podcast is get us all, whatever our South Asian identity might be, to express the stuff we're going through, to feel less alone. So that's Masala Podcast. So welcome today. Masala Podcast is about 2.5 years old. It started as the result of a competition. I did a podcasting workshop earlier, and I talked about 3 years ago, I was on Google typing, what is a podcast? I talk about this a lot because I want to tell people that podcasting is truly a democratic platform. You don't need to be connected. You don't need to know anyone to start it. And I think that's the beauty of it. So started it about 2.5 years ago. I've just wrapped up season 4. Each season is about 10 to 12 episodes. You're welcome to go listen on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. It's been great. Been, won a couple of British Podcast Awards, 2 last year, 1 the year before. Been nominated for 2 more this year. I get written about in a lot of magazines, which is amazing. And to me, it always surprises me. And I sort of think to myself, like, that's me. I have this moment sometimes because the other people that are nominated are usually celebrities, have big teams behind them, and there's me with my little podcast in my kitchen table, my recorder. So it's always amazing and wonderful that, to be in these spaces. So I feel very, very grateful. And a lot of it is to do with you, with my audience who's been kind of part of this journey, my audience who writes in and loves me and supports me and tells me, oh my God, that episode you did, we talked about this and it really helped me. So that's what keeps me going. So thank you very, very much for being you. Give yourself a big round of applause. So today, Masala Podcast Live in Cologne, we have 3 amazing guests, wonderful women, who are all doing incredible things, who are making us all proud as South Asian women. To my extreme left is Laxmi Manuela, who is an artist. She's from the Netherlands. She is all about her taboo-breaking work. She is an artist who does a lot of work around the female body. Her work is right behind you. You can see that. And I love the fact that how much beauty there is in the folds of our skin and our curves in our bodies, and in a society that's all about teaching us to hate ourselves if we don't fit into a very narrow size 8 blonde body. We're taught to hate that body. And I think Laxmi shows us that any body is beautiful and our bodies are beautiful. So thank you for what you do. Big round of applause for Laxmi. Second, we have Prasanna Oommen, who's a presenter, a host, an author, a comms consultant, and an author. She does a lot of work around identity and fitting between the 2 identities, and I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say today. Big round of applause for Prasanna. And last but not least, Anu Ambasna, who is all about building worlds through art and music. Anu is an illustrator, she's an artist, she's a DJ, and she was telling me yesterday about her dream to create this magical graphic novel that encompasses all of that, and I know she's going to make it happen. Give Anu a big round of applause, please. So I talk a lot about bad Betis. So this necklace that I'm wearing says bad Beti. Now, to me, it's like a telegraphic way to say a woman who doesn't do as she is told. It's a telegraphic way to express the identity of a woman who refuses to follow the very strict binary code of what it is to be a South Asian woman. And I think we're all on this panel, and a lot of you kind of in the audience are very much people who've chosen not to follow that very specific, strict path. So a bad daughter, I tried to look it up in German, and I think I got it wrong. I was asking someone. So it's Busa Teshta, is it? No. No. What was it? That's what it is. I can't pronounce it again. So that's what it is in German. So let's begin by each of you telling me a little bit about you, your kind of cultural heritage, what you do. Should we start with you, Laxmi?
Yeah, that's fine. You all hear me, right? Okay. My name is Laxmi, and I'm an artist from Rotterdam, the Netherlands. I make paintings. My background is that my parents are from Suriname, and my great-grandparents are from India. And I use my own experiences of my culture. I try to use that in my paintings. So I how do you say that? I transform my experiences into paintings. And I make oil paintings and also murals, so small sizes, big sizes.
Where did you grow up, Lakshmi?
I grew up in the Netherlands, in the north of the Netherlands. I was born, and now I've been living my whole life in Rotterdam.
And kind of what's your cultural heritage? Like, where do your family come from?
My parents come from Suriname.
Suriname.
So my mom from the big city. My mom from the big city, and my dad from the countryside. Yes.
Thank you.
And my great-grandparents also from the countryside.
Brilliant,
Yes.
brilliant. Prasanna, can we come to you?
Not to correct, but to broaden what I do, I actually refuse to work on identity because I don't believe in that, in these two cultures, German and Indian. So my cultural heritage is that my parents are from Kerala, from South India, and I was born in this city. And what do? I actually work on as we say in German, the normality, the Selbstverständlichkeit, what we say, so that it is normal that people like us, the short bodies, or curly or black hair and brown skin, work in fields which are dominated by white males. So this is my work. So I work in cultural policy. I'm setting things on the agenda which improves also women's lives and people of color's life. So it's all about just living in a more just world and doing art which is not othered by others. I don't know if you get it, but this is what I'm doing.
Thank you. Anu.
I'm Anu. I am an illustrator, and I kind of specialize in making comics. And I'm also a DJ and a radio host, and all my practices kind of inform each other and are an extension of me. So all of my work kind of acts as a diary of sorts. And I am half Punjabi, half Gujarati, but my parents were born in Tanzania and then moved to London, both at a relatively young age. So I'm kind of like on an in-between, of not really feeling British, but not really feeling Indian. And a lot of my work actually explores that with humor always injected through it.
Thank you so much. Round of applause, I think. Could each of you tell me what makes you a bad daughter?
That's a good one. I still feel like I'm a bad daughter.
Yeah,
That's
why?
really funny because I'm now 36, and when I come home, I still feel like, okay, I'm like not a good daughter or not a good sister even. And where it comes from, I think it started already when I was like younger, that my parents asked me to wear a dress, and I refused. I wanted to wear pants, or they introduced me to a Hindu guy to get married with him, and I refused. I told them, no, that's not for me. But also things like being single for longer than 10 years, almost 14 years. And my parents were worried because I didn't had a guy or a man in my life. So that was not good for them. The other thing maybe for me is my aunts, my family gave me really the feeling like you're not good enough. You act like you're very free, and that's not the way you supposed to act. And also making comparisons between me and my nieces that are more, how do you say that? More in line with what they expect them to do. So for me, that was almost a normal I almost accepted that was,
Like you were not fitting the norm.
yeah,
Right?
and I almost believed them that was the norm. But I, how do you say that? I always just followed my path and just did what I wanted to do.
And I think that's the pain point that, because the kind of idea of what is normal is so narrow and so specific. If you do X, Y, and Z, then you are accepted and you're normal. Yeah. And if you go anywhere, even a little bit outside of that, sorry, you don't fit in anymore. And that's really painful. And I don't think people who don't grow up in that understand how difficult that is, because that then means making a choice. I was talking to somebody earlier about, I think they asked me a question like, what made you choose? And I'm like, I didn't have a choice. I had to be this person. But it doesn't come without a price. The price is you don't feel connected. The price is you might not feel Asian enough or whatever enough or female enough.
Yeah,
so there is always a price to pay.
Yeah.
And I think my question then is, why should it be like that?
Yeah.
Why must it be so binary? Either you fit in and you do these 20 things you're told, or you're out.
Yeah.
You don't deserve the affection of your family. You don't deserve the prestige. You don't deserve the love. Why?
I think it's the fear.
Yeah.
They're really afraid that you're gonna outgrow them or, be the shame of the family.
Exactly.
That's also a thing that
Exactly.
you all recognize maybe. But I think it's fear, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's fair, and I think it's a very tightly controlled ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because if we all follow what we're told, then the ecosystem carries on exactly the way it is. And it's patriarchal. It benefits the patriarchy. It doesn't benefit women. And the minute anybody goes, you have to come down really hard on them, because if they stray, then this whole thing is going to collapse.
Yeah.
It's very balanced, and people have to keep it, So I think that's probably why it is.
Yeah.
Prasanna, let's come to you. What makes you a bad daughter?
I didn't become a doctor.
There you go. Started right there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is really true. I think I've got a lot of support from my parents, I got it. But still, it is difficult for South Asian parents to accept that children do something which they can't describe in one sentence through the relatives. So I agree. And this thing with the fear, I also agree, but I'm now, I don't know, I turned 50, so I might be a little bit mild now. I think it is also this whole post-colonial adaptation of our parents also influenced their upbringing. So they are also afraid of us entering white rooms. I mean, fields in which whites are dominant, and they want us to be in a safe place. So that's why they say, please study, medicine, engineering, or business, because they don't think that the white world, which is also true from their point of view. So this is one thing. And also, of course, if you live with your boyfriend, which I did before you get married, it's also not so
Not
good. So all these little things, or I married after my younger brother. I got married after him, which was not very good.
Yeah.
So these are the little details.
Yeah.
But I must say, what you really need to stay a bad daughter is a good supportive father, because the mothers, sometimes they are in the trap, in the same trap. So, and my father never pressurized me to get married, for instance. So what happened is that my boyfriend said he experienced in India how it was for my father to explain why his eldest daughter is not married. So he said, we should get married. It's just easier for him. It's like that. And that helps to stay a bad daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is the other thing that comes up often in our lives, and not just us on this panel, there, in your lives as well. There are so many points where you're made to feel bad. You're made to feel lesser than. You're made to feel like somehow by your actions, to choose your happiness, you're bringing shame and dishonor and all of that on the family. And it's so much pressure to put on us, And it starts really young, like 4 or 5. You already know without anybody telling you what is right and what is wrong. You say this or you don't say this, or you wear this or you don't wear this. And how sad is that, you know? Anu, your turn. What makes you a bad daughter?
How long do you have?
An hour.
The list is kind of endless. I mean, one of them is very obvious. I have a lot of tattoos, which is not something that goes down very well in my family. Yeah, that was a big point of contention very early on. And then, yeah, I guess...
Even though tattoos come from, like, Indian culture, right?
Exactly. And then I guess similarly to, other two women here, I guess it was following my own path and not adhering to the box that a lot of us are culturally put in a very inherent way as well. So dropping out of university, like I said to you yesterday, not finishing something in my life, you know? What else? My career in general, being a DJ, being in nightlife spaces.
Oh my God.
Traveling a lot on my own as a brown woman. The list is, it's long.
Voluntarily putting yourself in places of sin.
Yes, exactly. Right? Oh, and then another big one, coming out as queer to my parents.
Oh my God, yes. That's a whole other podcast.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, all of you, for opening up. I've been, why am I a bad Beti? I mean, look at me. So that could be another episode, but we won't do that today. Let's now get our lovely audience into this. Put your hands up if you're a bad Beti. Woo! 3 cheers.
Everyone.
Excellent. So, good powers. Yeah, it's fine. You don't have to be, you can be whatever and be a bad Beti and support us. So what we're going to do now is have a little game, right? Now this game I call the orgasm guessing game, okay? Now, the purpose of this game is very simple. I will play you a couple of sounds, and I'm going to divide you to this part of the room. So that's section B, and this side of the room is section A. So I'm going to play the sound, and you have to guess whether the sound is an orgasm or something else, and just shout out the answer. I'm going to go section A, section B. And there might be a prize at the end of it. We'll figure out what the prize is, right? Manoj, could we have the first sound, please?
Oh.
Section A, was that an orgasm or not an orgasm? No. Even I don't think so. Well done. Section B, was that an orgasm? Was that not an orgasm? Yes! Coming back to another taboo, like, oh my God, we've always got to show that we're having a lot of fun, even when we're not. Well done. Could we have sound 2, please?
Ooh.
Section A, was that an orgasm? Was she having an orgasm? Or that's called premature orgasm. Could she be having an orgasm or just maybe trying her favorite cocktail? Be a very good cocktail. Could we have the third sound, please? Oh, it's watching a porno, so it's an exaggerated sound of an orgasm rather. Oh, it's an acted out orgasm, like a performative orgasm. I like that. Like I need to really show, yeah. Beautiful. I think you should get the prize for that one. Could we have the next one, please?
Yeah.
Was that an orgasm, or did she just find her keys? Keys? Excellent. I agree. Thank you, my dear audience, for participating. Give yourselves a big round of applause. So the point of this, it's a fun game and it kind of gets people laughing and all of that. But the kind of more serious point is that when we start to normalize things that we all experience and we all want to experience, and we start to normalize sex and sexuality, it opens up a conversation, and then it opens up issues within that as well. So if we are queer, if we are asexual, if we have issues around it, we can then talk about it. But within the community, when we do not discuss sex and everything is just, the door is shut before you can even go there, there is no space for us to express anything complex within that. I don't know about you, but growing up, like, anytime there was a kissing scene on TV, my parents would go, "What is all this trash you're watching?"
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I can
And
recognize
immediately
that,
the channel would get changed. Or anytime I'd watch a lot of Western stuff, and they'd be like, "What is this? What is this horrible thing?" Like we spoke in Malayalam. These dirty things you watch. So immediately as a young woman, you're like, "Oh my God, this is dirty." And that sense of shame that you embody, even before you understand what that is, then as you grow older, how then do you access your pleasure, right? How then do you own your sexuality? You can't. And then it becomes really complicated and really layered within that. And I think, therefore, the kind of more serious point is that when we do stuff like this, when we talk about sex, when we talk about orgasms, when we laugh about it, it is normalized. So that's my kind of point. Coming back to my lovely guests, Laxmi, may I come to you?
Yes.
You explore the naked female body a lot in all its beauty, in all its glory, in all its real. I love the folds of the flesh that you kind of
Thank you.
demonstrate in your work. Why is this important to you?
Yeah, well, there are many layers to this question. I think I make paintings, as I said before, to transform my experiences in my paintings. So there can be many themes or experiences that I had, like, for instance, about the taboo on menstruation or about sexuality.
Yeah.
And I use those subjects in my paintings. So in a way, it's a way to tell a story.
Yeah.
I started in 2016 with paintings, and for no reason I started painting myself. I did a self-portrait, but I didn't know why I did it. I just did, just a gut feeling, just the emotion I felt. And I did it for a few years, and when I look back, I'm like, oh, there's a story behind it, and that's what I'm still doing, but now I have, like, different subjects. For instance, now I'm painting about sexuality. I try to portray a woman, how she is, without covering it with fake shit, short say. So, like how a woman is, how she's getting older, when she's getting fat, or when she's slim, when she has, like, stretch marks. I just love the realness of it. So that's what I try to show. And I also make sometimes paintings of myself to keep it more personal for myself. And I just think it's important to open the conversation about that. And I have, like, a lot of reactions, positive and negative, of people that makes me think, but also let them think about why they're asking those questions or why they're being negative about it. But most, I think recently a lot of women show me support for my paintings, so that's nice. Yeah, so it's a kind of a way of storytelling, but it's also processing my own journey as being a woman.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's really difficult because I think what we were saying earlier, because as women, we're allowed such a narrow way to be female, right? You can only be a certain size, you can only look a certain way, your skin has to be a particular way. And anybody that doesn't fit in is made to feel really, really bad. And all these kind of, you open up a magazine or you turn on your TV, it's very slim Caucasian women most of the time.
Yeah.
Older women, definitely non-shown. Women with dark skins like us, you don't really see us anywhere. So the idea of desirability is very much a slim, size 8, blonde, white woman. And anybody that's outside of that is made to feel undesirable. And how sad is that?
Yeah, and you can never achieve it.
Exactly.
You can never achieve this, ever. You cannot achieve the height.
Yes.
You cannot achieve the body structure. Nothing.
Because genetically, we have big hips. I mean, like, that's just how we are built, right?
Although I think
Yeah. Yes. It was not,
No.
wow, how beautiful you are. You're like, oh, that's for a child. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's also interesting to ask why is that a perfect picture and for who, and why are we trying for who?
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to? Is it for men or
Yes.
is it because we're insecure ourselves?
Yes.
Did
Yes.
it started when we were young, or did
Yes.
it came when we got older? Because
Yes.
when did we get aware of our
Yes.
bodies and
Yes.
this perfect image?
Yes.
And who created this perfect
Yes.
image, and why are we
Yes.
keeping it?
Yes. It was created by Western media, I think, very much. And if you look back at our own heritage, look at the women we thought desirable. Look at like Raja Ravi Varma's paintings, or look at kind of our goddesses. They're beautiful and big and, like curvaceous. All the temples, the goddesses in the temples, they are not skinny size 8 women. They're like beautiful, buxom women. And that's where we come from. And that was our concept of desirability. And that was the goddess. But we've kind of ended up, we live in the West, but even if you go back to India, every time I go back to India, the actresses are skinny now. Say Bollywood in the 80s were big women,
Yeah.
Not anymore. They're very, 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 very slim. So I think this kind of very heteronormative, very Caucasian idea of desire is what we're stuck with. And then we're made to feel inadequate. And then not just that, advertisers will sell us shit to make us buy it in the hope that we are then becoming more desirable. Something we could never achieve, like what Prasanna said, it's this aspiration and we can never get there. Because how, Yeah, so that's something I think that really interests me about your work, Laxmi, and I think I look at it and each time I look at it, I think, oh my God, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
It really is, because we don't see that, and it is beautiful. It's beautiful in your art, it's beautiful.
I'm really surprised about what you say right now, because when I started painting in 2016, I was not focused on the outside world.
Yeah.
So maybe for the last year,
Yeah.
I started to go outside with my art.
Yeah.
And before that, I just was working in my space and not thinking about the reactions of the
Yeah.
outside world. So that's why I paint vaginas, for
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah.
I don't think about the reactions. I just paint
Yeah.
what I want to paint.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then when I came outside, the reactions were like what you say, like, oh, why isn't this
Yeah.
done before, or why are
Yeah.
not many people talking about this? And I'm
Yes.
like surprised
Yeah,
and shocked sometimes
Yeah.
also about the
Yeah.
reactions.
yeah. Do you get any backlash? Any negative comments or feedback?
Well, not directly. I did
Yeah.
a TV interview in the
Yeah.
Netherlands on
Yeah.
national television last year. And I noticed that no one from my own community reacted on me.
Yeah.
No positive, no negative.
Yeah.
They just silenced me. And when I asked my aunts, I'm like, did you
Yeah.
saw the TV item? They're like, yeah, we saw it. Did you like it? They're like, and then
Then they change the topic. Yeah.
They ignore me,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the only person, my dad was the only person. I was
Yeah.
surprised that he
Yeah,
reacted, but
yeah.
he just called me and he was
Yeah.
proud of me. But the rest of the family,
Yeah.
like even my mom was,
Yeah.
she was embarrassed.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
I mean, I get the same thing. If I put a picture of myself drinking a coffee, I get 50 likes on Facebook.
Yeah,
If I put up a post about doing Masala Podcast, no one says anything. It's quiet.
it's quiet.
So
Yeah.
that tells you a lot, right? So I think that's kind of probably common. Prasanna, coming back to some of your work around non-identity, shall we say, what makes you do this? What in your experience makes you do this?
I think the German context is a very specific context because we are not, Indians or people of color are still a minority.
Yeah.
This has to do with the migrational movements.
Yeah.
And so there was a long time where we didn't have any solidarity
Yeah.
amongst the communities.
Yeah.
I think, and I always looked,
Yeah.
towards England, and I
Yeah.
thought, okay, that's great, something is happening. And then suddenly a discourse developed around structural racism,
Yeah.
discrimination, all this.
Yeah.
But the dialogue didn't really develop,
Yeah.
It was a lot about accusing and
Yeah.
reacting,
Yeah.
and you're good or you're not good.
Yeah.
And actually, we didn't talk about biases which are within
Yeah.
our own cultures
Yeah.
and within our, parents' cultures, which are there.
Yeah.
And these biases, of course, like
Yeah.
in pictures, are, of course, they have a very heavy post-colonial impact. Our parents raised us to be white.
Yes.
Yeah, they wanted to whitewash us,
Yeah.
but on the same hand, they didn't want us to marry any white people. But it's really, schizophrene, as we say, you know. And what I wanted to offer with a few other colleagues was an alternative to the very heated up debate. I wanted to offer people like me who can, as I said, navigate through white rooms. That means I'm not a role model for anti-racism discourses and workshops, and I'm a role model for, I want to be that with my colleagues. Not that anybody follows me, but that it's possible to discuss politics, feminism issues without mentioning my heritage, but taking into account that I have, of course, a competence which my white colleagues don't have. You know, and this is something which you can only do if you can navigate, if you can play their game. If you can't play their game, you're immediately, you know, somewhere in a frame. But if you talk, you know, you are. I wanted to, how do you say that?
Flip it.
Flip it. The assimilation which we were taught. I wanted to use it, and this is why I'm doing it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Anu, coming to you. Now, mental health is a huge taboo in our culture. We do not talk about it. We have really awful words to describe mental health. Either you're pagal or, you know, like that's it. There's no space for us to be depressed. There's no space for us to be anxious, to explore those nuances. Tell me a little bit about how that played out in your life, within your family and cultural context.
So, I think mental health within my family, but within the culture, is something that, like you said, is not spoken about. We are taught at a very young age to just kind of push our feelings down and to
show a particular face to the world.
Face, exactly. And that's showing face, whether that be in social spaces, whether that be in white spaces, whether that be in family spaces, you know, where you are all about keeping up appearances. You're all about showing the success, the wealth, just success on whatever level that is. And for me, at a very young age, I was taught how to put on a front. And I was taught that through the environment that I grew up in. And that was often an environment that didn't leave me feeling very safe, didn't leave me feeling very nurtured. And that front was something that I really, really had to work hard to break down. I had to learn a whole new language, and that language was talking about my feelings, being honest about how I was actually doing. And I think that's, you know, not only a cultural thing within, you know, the South Asian community, but that's also something within British culture as well.
Absolutely.
You know?
We don't discuss our feelings. We just get drunk in the pub.
Exactly. And so, there was a lot of like unlearning I had to do, and a lot of hard work as well, a lot of intensive hard work to kind of work through depression, to work through anxiety, to work through PTSD, trauma, all of that kind of shit. And now I'm in a place, thankfully, where I'm able to talk about this. I'm able to state my needs towards my mental health, my wants, set boundaries, and that's something that has come at a cost, and that cost is feeling detached from my family, feeling detached from my culture in a lot of ways, because it is not the norm to talk about those things. It's not the norm to be so open, and also to just own it and say a big like fuck you to anyone who doesn't understand it or is not willing to understand it. I just feel like within our culture, mental health is just not deemed to be a priority. The saving face, the putting on that front is at the utmost importance.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's just backwards.
I think sometimes that maybe that I've thought about this a lot. But perhaps it comes from, survival. So to survive, it was very important for us as a community to kind of focus on making money, fitting in with the culture that we've moved to. So mental health almost felt like a luxury. Like, oh, if you've got the time and the space, you can be depressed. Yeah. And it almost comes from that. And even now that we are not necessarily in survival mode, we might be second, third generation, we're settled into wherever we are, we've got jobs, we don't, somehow it's still carried on.
Yeah, because it's a transgenerational
exactly.
issue. Like in the show, we know it from the show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what's happening.
So true, so true.
But I also think it's about like going against the grain, to speak about your mental health and to even acknowledge the fact that there might be an issue there is not normal.
It isn't.
And we all know that doing something that's outside the box within our culture is sacrilege.
Absolutely. And mental health is something that's really dear to my heart. Like I talk about it a lot on my social media, on the podcast. Like I, like you, suffer from anxiety, depression, PTSD. And for the last 3 years, I talk about it very openly. And it's the thing I get a lot of people will say, oh my God, that's so brave of you, right? Then I've got told, like, you should then think about God. Like apparently, somebody once told me, just think about Krishna and your mental health issues will go away. I'm like, I really wish, I don't think Krishna is that concerned about my mental health. Like, he's got bigger things to worry about.
He might make you laugh.
I know, exactly, but not, but that's kind of where we come from. It's like, oh, this isn't nothing, just like put it aside and talk about the real stuff, like what job you've got or what car you've bought or how big your, finances are. So it's just, I think culturally, we're just not allowed the space to talk about something that's so critical. And the other thing that always strikes me is like, older Asian people will talk about oh, my leg hurts, oh, my joint hurts, oh, my this, but nobody will ever say I am depressed, ever. So it's almost like code, like women, particularly older women, who a lot of them are unhappy or they might have issues. It's easier to say something physical. So many Asian women, I don't know if it's the same in your kind of circles, but mine definitely. Half of, maybe 70% of the older women I know have physical pains that they talk about. And I think a lot of it is a manifestation of a psychological pain that they're not able to express. So it's a real shame, but I think by having conversations like this, somebody might listen to a podcast or someone might listen to Anu talking about it on her social media or whatever. There is opportunity then to change.
I think the work is,
No, I just wanted to say that I think we're very blessed that we have the opportunity to meet each other and be connected on social media. So because I think in the generation of my parents and my aunts, I recognize that this problem is still happening in my family also, and with me still. But they just solved it with committing suicide. That's such a normal thing in my family. If I tell it to strangers, they're like really shocked. And to me, it's almost normal that people ended their lives. And when I grew up, at a certain point, I felt like, oh, maybe that's a way for me to get out of this life. And when I got more older, I was like, okay, no, now I understand this. How do you say that? This system where we're in and how sick it is. What you said, you should get out and be like, fuck you all. I'm going to choose myself.
Yeah, and I also think it's very important that you are talking about it, because I did that yesterday for German TV here, and it was really like, they asked me before, and I said, okay, I can't hurt my business. I can't say, and it wasn't that bad, but within the pandemic, there was a lot of anxiety, and there was a lot of too much of everything, too many expectations. And then I said, okay, I'm doing it because I want to get rid of the taboo. We have to talk about systems where this is allowed and where we have also easy systems to access, because the pain issues are always also a result of a long-term depression. And I know pretty many people, even, and I just met a very good friend, a male, who said, he didn't say anything within the pandemic, but he said it afterwards. And he said, I was sick and I didn't tell anybody.
Yes.
I had really mental issues. And
Yes.
this is why I did that yesterday. And I think it's so important that you share it.
Thank you.
And that we share
Yeah.
it when we
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
that we are heading towards a depression, perhaps.
Yes. And I think what that does when we own up and talk about our stuff, it takes away the shame, because there is such shame attached to mental health in our culture. And somehow, we're seen as weak. We're told that if you talk about it, you'll be seen as weak, and then other people will attack you. But actually, it's the reverse. When you talk about it, 5 other people then feel able to talk about it, And that's the work, I think. That absolutely is the work. And I'd love now to talk about if we were to change the world, if Bad Betis were to change the world, what would need to change for us to have a better world for that young lady there, or for the next generation?
I think the first word that comes up in my mind is sisterhood.
Yeah.
I feel like I really missed it, right? I really, really missed that when I was young, and now I find it. Now I find it at the age of 36.
Yeah.
But when I hope that I had a sister who talked to me, sit down with me, and just said to me, "Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I can help you through this, and I'm going to support you, and you can do this," and uplift me instead of giving me everything we talked about today is so recognizable from feeling bad, feeling ashamed, and not knowing that you have potential and that you're good enough for this world and that you're okay.
Yeah.
So I think sisterhood would
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would totally support this and agree. Solidarity, real, honest solidarity between women, especially in the professional life.
Yeah.
I actually experienced it more in India than in Germany.
Wow.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
it depends which community you enter. But I experienced in Bangalore a solidarity between women which I never experienced here. And I think that's very important also to do something which I really, it's really like, I'm driven by cliches. I mean, get rid of the cliches.
Yes.
A woman doesn't have to be a good cook or
Yes.
good in the garden, or she can do maths. And it seems very old-fashioned to still talk about this. But seeing these 2 young kids, I hope that you can just be free
Yes.
as a girl. You don't have to be a girl.
Yes.
You can, but you don't have to.
Yeah. The kind of girly girl that we're
girl,
brought
yeah.
up. Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
These are the pictures. Get rid of the pictures in your
Yes, sounds good. Anu?
I just think we need to stop giving so much of a shit about what other people are doing. We as a culture, as a whole, care way too much.
Yeah.
We are way too involved in other people's lives, in other people's paths.
Yeah.
And
about what the neighbor's gonna say.
Yes.
I think we need to, as a whole culture,
Yeah.
just have more acceptance
Yeah.
of who people are
Yeah.
and whatever path they want to go down, and just come at people with more openness for all types of things, whether that be through, gender or the career path you choose or having a white partner or whatever it is. We just all need to not give so much of a shit about
Absolutely.
the paths we take.
Absolutely. And I think for me, this is how we change things, how we change the world. Having these conversations, creating a sisterhood, whether that's virtual, whether that's real, whether that's in your city, whether that's you going to Bangalore to find it. Whatever these communities are, finding each other, voicing things like you're talking about mental health, you're talking about the body, you're talking about identity. And these are the conversations, and it feels like one little conversation, but add this up, add this up, add this up, and it multiplies. And what that does is makes each of us feel less alone in whatever our personal struggle is. I think the problem is when we're like, okay, I feel like this, and it must be just me. And it isn't just me. It isn't just you. It's all of us. We're all products of this world, of this culture, of this dual identity that we're constantly trying to balance with. So more of this, I think, in my view, would change the world. That brings me to the end. Is there anything you would like to add, any of you? Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Well, I think if people are interested in my work, if I can promote myself,
Yes,
interested in my
absolutely.
work, they can look me up. And on Instagram, Laxmi Manuela is my name.
Prasanna, where can people find you?
Just with my name. You
On
can
Google.
just,
She's
Google
really
my-
famous. She comes up.
No, it's just, there are just not so many presenters in this field with
Yeah.
this background. That's why you can just Google my name. Then
And
you find the
Anu?
website.
You can find me on social media at Anu No Party.
Which is a brilliant, brilliant name. And you can find Masala Podcast on Spotify, Apple. If you just Google Masala Podcast, I'll come up. And my platform is called Soul Sutras, so soulsutras.co.uk. If you go to the website, you can email me. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, all as Soul Sutras, so that's where I am. Come say hello to all of us and support us, because that's how we go forward in the world. And I wanted to say a massive thank you to all of you for turning up, to Manoj for having us, for giving us the space, and for manning all the moaning and groaning on the computer. Thank you all for being here. Before I let you go, I want you to repeat a couple of things for me. So I'm going to say words, and you repeat it after me. Bad Betis rule. I'm Besharam. Badtameez and proud. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. I'm Sangeeta Pillai. Thank you for listening to Masala Podcast, a Spotify original. Masala Podcast is part of my platform Soul Sutras. What's that all about? Soul Sutras is a network for South Asian women, a safe space to tell our stories, to hear inspiring South Asian women challenging patriarchy, a space to be exactly the people we want to be and still feel like we belong in our culture and our community, and ultimately a space where we feel less alone. I'd love to hear from you, so do get in touch via email at soulsutras.co.uk or go to my website soulsutras.co.uk. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. Just look for Soul Sutras. Masala Podcast was created and presented by me, Sangeeta Pillai, produced by Anushka Tate, opening music by Sunny Robertson.
Besharam, Badtameez, Gandhi. Hi.